We're going to go ahead and start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5 o'clock on Wednesday, May the 10th, 2020. Welcome to Calexico Unified School District Board of Trustees Special Board Meeting. Janet, item A. Janet, A1, call to order.
Trustees present this evening are Trustee Romero, Trustee Magallanes, Trustee Alvarado, and Trustee Ciro Calderon, with Trustee Lorenzo Calderon Jr. absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Janet. A2, Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was item A2. Item B, comments from the public. The board will take any and all comments from the public related to this whole item on the agenda. Janet, do we have any comments from the public?
No comments.
Thank you. There's no comments at this point, so we will continue to item C. Item C, discussion, possible action. Item C1, discussion of potential corrective measures related to the complaint against trustees. Amy?
So on October 14th, the majority of the board set this special meeting to discuss whether there would be any potential corrective measures. Such discussions have to happen in an open session of the governing board as the complaint at issue related to alleged conduct by trustees. And also, so this is the forum for that discussion, if any discussion is desired. And in accordance with Government Code 54957.5, if the members of the public wish to inspect materials that are being reviewed by the governing board after the meeting, those would be available through the superintendent's office or through Janet Burgos, executive assistant. Thank you.
No questions, just comments for possible action. One of the things that was discussed was to put in a bylaw, correct? The in regards to what was it? Well, just a bylaw, just to ensure that whatever information is being shared, like during closed session, stays in closed session. Anything that comes out of closed session, then we could go ahead and take some type of corrective action as far as that, as far as censoring and stuff like that, as far as that goes.
A bylaw for specifically regarding censure?
Correct.
So I guess if the majority of the governing board wanted to direct council to prepare a bylaw regarding censure and bring that back to another meeting, then that's certainly something the board can do. It would require motion, so I can vote.
Okay, so should we act on each individual item, or should we put it all together and then vote to get this? Because I have other.
I did defer to the board to how they wish to do it. I can try to keep a list and then.
Okay, well, let's do one by one, so we don't. So okay, so there's a motion on the. There's a motion by Mr.
Well, yeah,
Mr.
I want to make a motion just that we can include that. That'll be part of the corrective measure also as well, because I think there's a lot of stuff on there. Well, let me make the motion first.
Yes.
What's possible for further discussion? The reason why I'm making the motion.
Yes.
The reason why I'm making the motion is just to ensure that whatever's in closed session stays in closed session. Whatever is put out from closed session at that time, we could go ahead and have the authority to censor whoever's putting that out as far as that goes. And if it's somebody else besides the governing board, I think there should be something also put in place as far as what other things could happen for that also as well.
Typically, employees would be subject to discipline.
Correct.
Board members' censure is really the board's own.
Correct.
So there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Alvarado. Is there a second? Second. I'll second by Mr. Romero. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
There's also something think that needs to be done also as well as far as trainings, as far as board members attending trainings. I think every board member should attend some type of training, especially the master and governance. That way they could go ahead and go over what could be what the roles of the governing board are as far as that goes. I know I attended it my first term, and I think that's something that should be allotted to everybody. I think that we should put something in there that at least the board members during their tenure tries to complete at least the governing board, the Masters in Governance, and then attend at least, some type of training, well, at least one training a year as far as that goes, or receive training as far as a governing board also as well. I think that's very evident as far as that goes.
Is that related to micromanaging and that kind of stuff?
That's related. Masters in Governance, they go over everything as far as that goes, and I think that's something that needs to be done by all board members. They go over everything as far as that goes.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that's my motion.
There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Alvarado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Alvarado.
And
Anybody else?
to be clear, was that a motion that all board members should be required to attend training once a year?
Yes.
To that effect?
We have not had also retreats. I think, well, because of COVID, of course, we missed the summer to have a retreat. So I don't know if this should be on a motion or just direction that we need that we also need to have retreats at least one in the summer in order to make sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing. And so on top of the training, or that could be combined with the training. But I mean, that's just an idea regarding the retreats. So
Can that be an amendment then to at least what was mentioned before? We just amend that previous motion and just add at least a board retreat a year?
Well,
Or is
yeah,
it a
either
year?
way.
At least you set the goals and all that stuff, correct? So it should be at least, but then,
Well, and the superintendent did reach out with regard to trying to get a consultancy group to set dates, possible dates in January and June, I believe June or July, to bring to the organizational meeting in December. You can correct me, Mr. Gonzalez, if I'm incorrect, but so I did reach out to start asking them to check their calendars.
So, just had a board retreat so we can build trust together and the mission and vision where we want to go.
Alright.
okay.
I think one of the other things. Sorry about that. One of the other things that were mentioned was decorum. I think that's very something vital. So that's something that I think I brought up since a couple years back, and something that I think as a board we need to work on also as well. There needs to be some type of decorum as far as that goes. So I don't know how to put that out as far as that goes. Amy, if you could go ahead and.
In the report, for instance, and the complaint, there were numerous board bylaws that are already in existence cited regarding professionalism and behavior and the manner of conducting oneself. So there are those bylaws. I think it would be a matter of the board determining if and how it desires to enforce those bylaws.
And that be if the members do not adhere to that decorum, that they should be censured?
Well, censure is one possible mechanism, or, well, as elected officials, other than censure, there's not really any other official actions the board could take other than just trying to counsel or discuss with them. Of course, that has to be an open session item unless it's a one-on-one discussion.
Or even if they're holding like a certain position also as well, you could bring them down from that position and rearrange it. Would that be something also as well?
The board can always, through formal action, change its organizational structure that it sets in December. So there could be, redos of votes. I have seen that done in other districts, other governing boards.
Okay, another thing I want covered is whenever there's a board member that misuses the credit card, that they should repay the amount that's been misused. Do I need a motion for that, or?
And are you talking in particular
In the,
incident?
yes.
So I guess there could be a motion to issue a directive to repay, if that's not already been repaid.
Okay, I make a motion to issue a directive to repay any misuse of the credit card.
Second.
So there's a motion by Mr. Romero. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Alvarado. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And Ms. Estrada, you did say that regarding closed session items, closed session information, that only the 5 of us are privy to, including with you. If a board member does, that's already in one of our bylaws, right? If a board member discloses that information outside the 5 of us, that should be taken to the DA, for the DA to investigate.
There are, so closed session confidentiality, matters that are properly in, agendized closed sessions that are proper subjects of closed session, are already protected in the Brown Act, and you're not allowed to disclose those matters. There are criminal penalties that attach for failures. If it's employees, there could be employment action that's recognized in the Brown Act. For board members, that potential misdemeanor charge is a looming threat, right?
We don't need a bylaw for that because that's already is it a bylaw or is it a state?
It's in the Brown Act.
It's in the Brown Act.
So
we don't
in the California Government Code, that's already in existence.
Okay.
And I believe your bylaws substantially mirror that, if not exactly.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on this because it's already in the system. Okay. Thank you, Amy. Sorry. Anybody else? Ms. Magallanes? No. Mr. Romero? No. Okay.
There was one other
Go ahead.
matter of a different variety, but this relates to your bylaws of the 10:30 adjourning time for meetings.
Oh.
If the board wanted to
Well,
address that issue.
our meetings, thank you, Amy, for reminding me. And our meetings, because of the extent of the issues that we have, not issues in general, because we are the largest district in the county, and because of the number of the schools that we have, usually our meetings may go beyond 10:30. So one of our bylaws states that we need to end our meetings at 10:30. Is there there will have to be a motion or another the bylaw amended?
I think similar to the request for a bylaw on censure, it would be motion second and a vote to give direction to come back with revisions to that bylaw, which would then be acted on in open session.
So I make the motion to revise that bylaw regarding the 10:30 end time. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
The second by Mr. Alvarado. If no more questions or comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Amy. Ms. Estrada.
I'm sorry, I need a clarification, and that would run up to what time? So we can add that to the bylaw?
Well, no, we need
No
to
limit.
discuss it.
We might say, we would say it could end at 10, it could end at, keep it at the same time, just extend it to the next, that's why we're gonna have to discuss that.
So then I should just bring the bylaw to the board, and then they discuss on them themselves the hour?
Yeah,
And
they
then-
could, they could address the issue piecemeal over a number of meetings. The law itself does not provide that there has to be a certain end time, so it is a restriction that is imposed on the board by its own board bylaws, which can be subject to change.
Which I think we should remove.
So
And
what?
we should remove that 10:30 and have no limit.
Okay. Well, yeah, well, we discuss it.
that's something that we need to discuss, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be here also, after a certain time, so exactly.
Yeah.
Is this
But that's why, again, that's why,
in the morning?
yeah, that's why it needs to be brought out to discussion because,
We could amend it, so.
yeah. I
We
know
could
I-
amend it as far as that goes and then take it from there, but I think that's something that we do need to visit and pay close attention to. Not only that, we're only scheduled for one meeting. I think us changing it to 2 meetings is gonna cut a lot of that stuff
Yes.
out also as well, so
Yes,
we need to look at that.
okay. Is that it? Anybody else? Amy, anything else?
I guess there are a couple other varieties of information or conduct addressed. One other issue that came up, and some of the incidents were years old, was about the use of email and CCing multiple other members. I believe, in the bylaws, it's already implicitly addressed in terms of what is a meeting and what kinds of communications are not allowed. But again, for the board to discuss the issue.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that's why I mentioned in the beginning, to attend those trainings as far as that way they could go ahead and get, a little bit more, insight from, the experts as far as that goes. That's one of those things that they go over stringently as, for the Brown Act as far as that goes. So I think that's one of those things where, as board members, we need to make sure that we're, up to par as far as that goes, understanding what those regulations are as far as that goes. And I'll just leave it at that as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I know this issue came up with the when we started with the issue of social media and how that also plays part on Brown Act violations. So yes, so I agree. We need to revise that too.
Well, and
Not revise it, but go over it. Not revise it, but go over it.
and last January 1, in addition, above and beyond what the normal Brown Act prohibitions are, for social media, it's even on topics within your jurisdiction, a single like between less than a quorum of the board members. It's also, I believe I passed around information about
Okay.
that legal
Yes.
update. Another variety of issues was about the manner in which concerns, accusations, or allegations of misconduct against employees should be presented by members of the board.
Now that's already in our bylaws, right?
At least implicitly.
Okay.
However, I guess that could fit into training. But
Yeah.
again, I'm just bringing up the
Yeah.
varieties of topics in case the board wants
Well,
to
we
issue
need
any
to,
direction
yes,
about
but
those.
we need to make a list of the things that we need to go over when we have our trainings, like you said.
Okay. And I think one last piece would be findings of dishonesty in the investigation itself, if the board wishes to discuss that.
Dishonest.
How do we deal with that?
That-
The issue of dishonesty, I mean.
That would be up to the board to figure out how you desire to deal with that.
Okay.
Do we need to discuss it later, or?
That could be discussed now. It's properly agendized for today.
Dishonesty, but in what,
Dishonesty, finding of dishonesty during investigation interviews.
Well, does
Okay.
anybody, go ahead.
If we find the member was dishonest during the investigation, I mean, our only option is to censure him, right? Or, I mean, what can we do?
Yeah, I suppose that would
Well,
be
how can we address that?
I guess by addressing it in a formal manner would be through censure, which I suppose you have the bylaw, if the board wishes to continue this conversation into future meetings after there's a bylaw on censure, that's within its rights.
well, and that's why that's the reason why I brought that up, the whole censoring thing, because I think there's different levels of that also as well that we could look into also as well. If it's, one violation, it could be censored for 3 months. If it's a second violation, then go ahead and just, put something in writing that you're stepping down as far as that goes. But that's something I think that we're gonna have to discuss, as a board as far as how we wanna handle those things.
Yeah, and typically a censure is just an expression of disapproval by a majority of the board toward one or more members. I guess there could be, some stipulations or directives put into place, but you have to be careful to make sure that they're lawful and measures that can be taken.
Okay, so we know that happened, but there's nothing at this point in time that we could do, correct?
Unless the board wished to direct a censure resolution to be prepared now, but my understanding is you would like the policy to be there so that you have something to utilize that's more formal.
Okay.
And I think that policy would go ahead and cover that also as well, correct? Specifically as far as what we want to happen as far as that goes?
Well, a censure policy, a board bylaw that would relate to censure is typically set up akin to a manner of handling employee discipline, right? The process for preparing it, what it would contain, the opportunity for a response. A minority of districts have those in their board bylaws, but there are some examples out there, and it's much more procedural in the bylaw than in terms of substance, because the board is within its free speech rights to express disapproval through censure. So That's its formal mechanism of doing so.
Therefore, when we bring that bylaw back for the censure, then we could discuss it.
Yeah, we have to go and make sure that we add at least some teeth to it as far as that goes, because we have to ensure that, you know, we're all in agreement with what we're going to decide to do.
Yeah, we gotta make sure that we hold the board members to the same standards that we hold employees. That's very critical. So when do we emphasize that?
You could do that after you have, you know, additional bylaws put in place, or you could have that discussion now.
Well, as far as that goes, I mean, that's one of those reasons why I want that bylaw in there. That way we could go ahead and go over and address everything at that time. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be covered as far as that goes, but I mean, I'm in agreement with that. I think, you know, not only that, you know, we need to realize as board members, once we go into closed session, that's pretty much what it means. It means closed session. It doesn't mean leaking out information as far as that goes. So I want to ensure that, you know, all that's in place. That way we could go ahead and handle certain situations a certain way. And I think if we have that, have our retreats as far as that goes, that way we could discuss as a board how we want things handled, what we see, you know, our vision as far as for the district, what the goals we expect from the superintendent also as well. I think all that needs to come into place because for a long time, I mean, I've been here for 5 years, and I think I've only been to one board retreat as far as that we had, you know, because of the fires, whatever it was, the trainer had to leave early. But I think that's something that's very vital here.
Yeah, because when an employee does it, they could be terminated or they are forced to resign. So we cannot terminate a board member that has violated some procedures, and we could ask them to resign, but that'll be up to him. But we can't force him to resign. That's an act of the voters. You know, where they could do a recall if they deem that's warranted. But we need to be held to the same standards as everybody else.
No, correct. Like I said, Richard, I agree with you. We're not above the law of anybody else. We're put on here by our constituents, and that's why I said there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been put in place, and there's something that's why we need to go back and put certain things in place to ensure that, you know, whatever's happening gets corrected right then and there. Because, you know, I didn't even know we didn't have that in our bylaws until one of the other, actually the new board member, Ms. Magallanes, is the one that brought it up, and that's the reason I thought it was already in place.
Nobody is saying that we're not gonna have this bylaw. However, we don't have anything right now. Now the question is, can we do it, for example, in readings? For example, for some things we have like the first reading, second reading, and in each reading you tell us what it is, and if we think of anything else that we want to put on that bylaw, then we tell you and you add it, and then on the second reading we do the same, and then we adopt it. Can we do that?
Yeah, that's fairly typical for bylaws or policies to bring them back for multiple readings and revisions. You know, as I mentioned, what I've seen in other school districts, board policies or board bylaws is it tends to be a procedure, and then that's the procedure through which you enforce the bylaws that you have codified in other existing bylaws, which you have a number of existing bylaws now touching on a lot of the subjects that you've already discussed today. But that would be your mechanism for enforcement and set forth a process for that. You don't necessarily need a process or a board bylaw to do it, because the governing board has, you know, its speech rights to speak as an entity, but a procedure is certainly, it's clean, it's fine, you know, and some districts have it, so.
And like we have board policy number 9012, and that should cover a lot of things. But I hope that moving forward, since everybody's aware of what they shouldn't do, I hope these incidents stop from occurring again? And that's just a comment.
And just along those lines, Richard, just to add what you stated, I mean, I think accountability is big, and accountability goes across our board, has to go across administrators, and we got to ensure that what we're going to do is going to be something in the best interest for everybody, to ensure that nothing like this, happens again. And that's something that we need to ensure, because you know what, we got to lead by example as far as that goes. And if we're doing this to ourselves on our own, then you know what, we're going to expect the same thing from here on out as far as that goes from our administrators also as well.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what's covered, but we gotta make sure that electronic messaging is not used to abuse employees or the system. I'm not sure if there's anything in the IT policy or where it's at.
Superintendent Gonzalez, do board members sign the acceptable use of technology policy the same way employees do, or are you aware of any existing procedure on technology?
No, not the trustees.
That's what I'm saying. That's something that we could discuss as far as with that bylaw, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's just, it's not in place, and there needs to be stuff in place in order to prevent anything like this from occurring again. And that's a thing. Educating ourselves, attending certain trainings, ensuring that we go to these trainings at least one time a year as a refresher, whatever it may be. Because I know like I said, I think I've been the only one that's gone to the Masters in Governance amongst us all. I know, Maggie, you're brand new, but I think other than that, myself and I think Carlos attended it also as well, but that's pretty much it. And that's something that I know, you guys have been here, longer than I have and stuff like that, but I want to educate myself as far as that goes, because you know what? I want to ensure that what I'm providing my constituents, not only that, our students, our staff, is, something that's going to better, our district.
Yeah, so we should be very careful where 3 members do not send emails to each other violating the Brown Act. We got to be so careful there. That's all I can say.
All right. Anybody else?
Can you, Amy, can you go through the items you have on your notes?
Yes, and I know Ms. Burgos is taking the official minutes, but there is direction, formal direction to come back with a bylaw for a censure procedure. Motion that all board members should be required to attend training annually, and some of that might fold into retreats. There's a desire by all members of the board to have retreats for both training purposes and building mission, vision, trust as a board. Using the censure procedure to, hold members accountable to standards of decorum existing already in board bylaws. There was a motion and a second and a unanimous vote to repay any findings of misuse of the district credit card. There was direction to bring back revisions to the bylaw, perhaps for multiple readings, with the 10:30 board meeting end time. That's somewhat unwavering. Make sure training includes proper use of email, not having a quorum of the board communicate via email in violation of the Brown Act or any other electronic means. And then other matters such as the dishonesty issue, those would be things that can be revisited after adoption of a censure policy. That's my notes.
Thank you, Amy.
Yes, of course.
All right. Anything else? Did you? Well, I guess the first reading and the second reading, that will be protocol to to get this bylaw or the bylaws approved, right?
Yeah, those could be brought in future meetings and agendized for future meetings.
Okay, all right. All right. Trustees, anything else?
That's it. For
No.
me, that's it.
Okay,
I don't have anything else.
all right. Mr.
No, the
Romero?
public has access to this report.
The board direction on October 14th was that via Public Records Act request, the members of the public would have access. And similarly, the, materials being reviewed by the board to be available for inspection, by communicating with Ms. Burgos.
Because everybody will have access if they request it.
Yeah, to the disclosable portions of the report.
Right.
Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Amy, is there anything else? All right, so that was item C1, discussion of potential corrective measures related to complaint against trustees. Item D, announcement of convening to closed session. Amy? Or we're going to closed session, and we'll let the public know when we come back from closed session. And in closed session, item E, we will be discussing E1 and E2. Thank you.